Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rolling the Bones and Round the Cage with Grizzly and Val. What's going on, Val?
Not a whole lot. It's hot here in Detroit. I just want to say hug a vet, be nice to a veteran, say hello to a veteran from Downriver, Michigan.
Yeah, here broadcasting live from Northern Kentucky. Hello, Catherine. Sean. Hello, good people. Sean says he's grilling a steak. Interesting, by the poolside. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you can support me by sending stars. Help me earn money to make and more content. Just throwing that out there. I got finally monetized. Thank you. Denise, hello there. Yes. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Delosa, what's shaking and baking? Welcome to the show, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good weekend or had a great weekend. I'm glad everybody's attending. So, wow, no pool here. Well, I thought you had a pool, Sean. Well, it's hot in Texas. Aha, Texas. Interesting. So, what did you think about the show the other night, Val?
That was a good show.
Yeah,
And,
people really loved you, man. They loved you a lot.
Well, I'm humbled by that. I'm not used to that, but that's very nice. It'd be a pleasure to see those guys again and chit chat with them more. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, man. They were just ecstatic to have you. They didn't know nothing about you. So not set up yet, Grizz. So you're not grilling your steak yet? No, come on, Sean. You got me all excited. I had Chinese tonight, homemade Chinese stir fry. Yeah. So but no, it was very interesting. But no, they really enjoyed it. They enjoyed the facts. They really enjoyed the database because they're not used to experiencing and hearing all that information.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very interesting. So yeah. So what do we have lined up tonight?
Well, tonight, from the great state of Michigan, we have a gentleman by the name of James Lady, and what he does, he has a different take on Bigfoot research. And what James does is he collects voice communication from his different expeditions and stuff. And I think he's got some samples for us to listen to as he gets in here.
Really? Well, James is actually here. So
great.
Yeah,
great.
James, welcome to the show there. Let's play some Hollywood
Thanks,
Squares. How you doing, James? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you, Val? Good to see you, man.
Wonderful, man. Great. So I was telling the group about some of your work. You have a unique way of approaching Bigfootery in that you collect voice communications, and you have some samples here tonight for us. And before we get into that, could you tell the listening audience a little bit about yourself, how you got into this?
Hello to all, first of all, and thank you both for having me.
Absolutely.
A little bit about myself. What am I? I don't know. I grew up with three sisters and always was running down to the creek to get some sanity. And I grew up on Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett and all the good guys and all my celluloid heroes. Tarzan and all those guys. I just growing up in a family of all women, pretty much my folks broke up early. I was reaching out and identifying with a lot of these heroes on TV, right up to James Bond, Clint Eastwood, Fox Mulder, those guys, always out for a sense of adventure and always out looking for a sense of justice and seeking truth, right? And with perhaps a moral lesson along the way. So anyway, I've always loved the outdoors, from running down to the creek just to get away from the madness, or to spending a lot of time alone up on a place called Torch Lake in northern Michigan. And I'm just a guy who loves adventure. I'm formerly atheist. I've done a 180 on that score, and not necessarily tangential. I'd probably say parallel to my investigation on this Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon. I see a lot of biblical parallels in that the Old Testament speaks of giants, and they reference them at times by name. So I don't know. This is an incredible mystery. It scintillates my need to tickle both sides of my brain. It's a subject that will never um, lose its luster for me because there's so much we don't know. I'm amazed at the journey I've had um, to have gotten the audio that I have. I like to say I'd like to mine audio artifacts from the depths of Michigan's woods. And that's essentially what I do. But it's not that simple. It is that simple actually. If you find where they commune, there are significant numbers of these beings out there, and they commune at night, and they have rituals. Um, and I only know this because I've listened to umpteen hours of nocturnal, goings on in the woods. But they're very, very special places. They're places that are given away by the structures they create, and they suggest to me that at some time or another, they commune in these places. So I've simply, you know, had the thought that they do meet in these places. These structures are significant, and they signify to me that they have been there, and they will likely be there again. So it's a good place to drop a recorder and see what the heck you get. And I've gotten things that literally have my jaw still dropped. I'm still amazed by um, this entire journey.
James, you and I have had some wonderful conversations. I mean,
Enjoyed them all.
we run the gamut: spirituality, life, arts. What would you say the most enriching part of this is to you?
Well, I kind of feel like a kid in the woods again. I've been through some doldrum times in my life. I've walked that dark valley, I like to say, and I've been, an empty shell of a man, just simply existing. And I don't believe we're meant to be that way. I've decided to seek out truth, and I, like I said, I feel like a kid in the woods again because there's so much mystery out there in the depths of the woods. Same sort of mysteries at the depths of the oceans. I mean, there are different universes, like the depths of the ocean and that in which we live in, and I have to say, even the depths of the woods hold great mystery, and I believe there's some biblical, supernatural stuff going on out there, and I'm just tickled by that. To grow up with all my celluloid heroes, to grow up and adopt a hobby that tickles both sides of my brains, and it gives you a sense of adventure. And I've literally been face to face with some of these creations, and it's been a rush, and I really love it. At times I've regret it because it can be absolutely terrifying, and but I carry on because they've never harmed me so far. And I've gotten such joy from treasure hunting these audio artifacts from these, what I call the wallows.
So what scares you? What terrifies you about
The unpredictability about the whole thing. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember my first my first encounter after I got into the field was actually benign and very passive. Uh, that was fun. I went to bed smiling that night. But in this, outside of this very same campsite, just I was 16, 3 years later, almost to the date, I had a very terrifying experience. That's how I read it initially because I didn't see it coming. I was out in the alone. It was about 8 o'clock, and I heard "Oh, chi chi chu ha" come from the river, and upstream from that spot, I heard this big boom, and I felt the percussive wave of the sound of that boom, and it sounded like I've often described it as like an empty dumpster being dropped onto concrete but there's no concrete. it was it was an amazing vocal. I did record that vocal, that experience, and I have recorded it also another time when I was not present, which makes me wonder what exactly is that vocal intent, that particular vocal expression, which sounded like a big explosion. And metallic. It had a very metallic quality to it.
Now,
So I
Grizz,
don't know
have
if I
you?
answered the question. I have to tell your audience and explain. You know this of me, Val. I'm totally ADD. So if you ask me a question
Bless you,
and
my friend.
I'm still chasing a squirrel over here, bring me back, please.
You do a good job. You do a good job, my friend. So, Grizz, have you ever heard that before? Bigfoot sounding metallic.
Yes, I
metallic
have.
resonance?
Yes, I have. But it sounds like, once again, from what he just said, it sounds like they are speaking in Cherokee or some form of tribal language.
Oh yeah,
Mhm, mhm,
they could be.
OCO,
mhm,
I've
you know,
recorded Haniawa, Awashigewanawa. That was a female subject
that's
I
what I'm
recorded.
saying. See, when
Yeah,
I'm,
last
yeah,
year. And but there's also another vocal expression. Believe it was from a different subject. I believe they were both female, and they're 9 minutes apart on the same footage of last August 10th. I'll
mhm.
always remember that because that's my birthday. So another one said, Haniha Hoskins, Vos to the east and to the Osfa. And what's unique about that, that's a slightly different sounding language than the Haniawa Awashigewanawa, which to me sounds totally Native American. The other one is maybe a blend of that and something else. But what's unique about that second honey or the honey hop hoskins blows to the east into the ospa, it's immediately followed by a melodic clicking and clucking expression, which witnesses time and again
Mhm, mhm.
claim to have heard. I don't know if it's from the same subject or the different subject, but it suggests to me that this one subject speaking in perfect, English, or not English, but enunciation.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
clearly language. Could be
mhm.
followed and coupled with that melodic clicky clucky stuff, which we know these creations to
You know,
employ.
during the World War II, soldiers were given what they call clickers. And
Mm-hmm.
the paratroopers, when they were dropped behind lines at night, they actually used those clickers to identify each other. There's a tribe in Africa that you need to look it up on YouTube for anybody that's interested. The tongue clucking.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole language is tongue clucking, and they'll sing in that language, in that form of communication as well. Um, it's interesting. You spoke about the metallic sound resonance of the voice. I've read that in a wonderful book by Marion. I believe it was Marion Place. Bigfoot's all over the world, all over the place. Um, that is mentioned uh, quite a few times in that book. And in addition to that, one of the books that I recall reading of David Pallades, Missing 411, I don't remember if it was East Coast or West Coast, but there was an individual there that was abducted, found himself in a cave, and ran into what he thought was a robotic Bigfoot. And it started or something, and it started taking shape and form of his grandma, his long passed away grandma.
Wow.
And he says when he came into the cave, this is not me saying this. This is what I
Sure.
recall reading from that particular book, that he's seen piles of dusty purses and personal belongings of people. So the question is, how did that belong? Where are the people that the belongings belong to that were
Mm-hmm.
collected? But again, the reason why I say this is because you mentioned the metallic resonance in the voice and stuff, and I'm using confluence to bring the connection together again with Bigfoots, because I see this as a James. I'm a Bigfoot data miner.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. Everybody's got their own discipline, their own taste, and that happens to be mine. That's my passion. That's what I do, and therefore I'm able to pick this stuff up in conversation or printed word, and make the connections with the information and stuff. But that's what I see, and it's very, very interesting. So I noticed that you sent I don't know, five different video clip or audio clips.
At least I think,
Yeah.
and each one has a story. Two
Mhm.
of those that I sent to you, I believe, I think I sent it to both to you. Happened in one night. There's one night up in the UP where a waitress had told me where she saw one. I went there and I dropped two recorders. After I started investigating, there was a high concentration of these physical artifacts that I look for in the woods: the teepees, the wigwams, the lean-tos, and other manifestations of woodcraft, which are fascinating. Yeah, so Two of them I sent. One is I think 52 seconds. The other is about 12 seconds. If you can identify them with both. And also, I mentioned earlier that I had recorded another time the big boom vocal, which I believe is a vocal. One of those clips is one of those that starts out with that big boom. And you might wonder, as I do, what they are. I've kind of theorized, since I experienced that in the woods when they spoke first, and then the big boom, and then the recording I got on the UP has that big boom, and there's some sort of conversation or dialogue going on between a couple subjects that sound absolutely massive. But I wonder if it is some sort of a greeting. I don't know.
So we're going to try and share this for the listening audience. I've never listened to these fully all yet. I'm a novice at this.
My experience with the StreamYard or these podcast utilities, sometimes they don't, the actual audio doesn't come through as crisp and clear as you would wish. Actually, we'll see.
What do you think, Rez? Do you think we should try it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's give
try,
it a rock and roll.
Try one of those 12-second clips.
All right, I'll go in the order that they were sent, and you can narrate.
Okay.
Let's see if this is going to work.
And also, if we could, James, is there any way you can turn up your volume a little bit on your mic or speak a little louder?
Yeah. Thank you.
There's some people who can barely hear you, they say. So
is this better?
Yeah, let's see if we'll give that a try.
All right. Sure, it's up on the headset.
Because I got you maxed out on my end.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
Okay, I phased out.
Yeah, you're back.
One of the viewers, one of the members of the audience asked if I was, I think, part of a Navy linguist kind of group. I'm not. I've not served, have not had the privilege of serving. But I'd love to chat with some of these crypto linguists.
Let's see if we can start this back here. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's see this.
All right, here, ladies and gentlemen.
Can you hear that, Grizz?
Did you? I meant to tell you at the bottom of the right or left-hand corner before you share it. That's my fault, ladies and gentlemen. You got to click a little box that says "Share Audio."
Okay. All right.
So
let's go back.
So back out of it. Yeah.
Let's go back out.
Well, I didn't mean to go that far back out, Val. My gosh, he just left the studio, ladies and gentlemen. He has left the
magical, mysterious disappearing Val. Z-Man.
Yeah, so now he's learning the ropes, ladies and gentlemen. He's never presented any evidence or any video or audio clips or
I wouldn't know how to do this. I've never done it.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's just once you learn how to do it on the software, it's very easy, right?
It's a learning curve.
And we didn't do a test run, so he'll be right back in here. Yeah, so when you said that phrase, we have a lot of people with different tribes that's been on the show, and then they taught us different native tongue or language or phrases. And when you start talking, I was like, oh my Lord, here we go. Flashbacks. So very interesting. Isn't Governor Whitmore Michigan's Bigfoot? So yeah, I think that is correct. Thanks, Chris Hensley. Thank you for working on it. Yeah, right. Let's see here. Val's probably like, here. All right, here.
There we go.
Welcome,
I don't mean to laugh, Val. Let's play some Hollywood Squares again. Well, I don't know what I just hit, but I know I'm sexy. But hold up here. Let me do some switching around here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Val, let's try it again. Now, do you see a little share audio button when you hit present, bottom left-hand corner? A little bitty. I don't know why it's not automatically marked.
Yeah, I
welcome to the show there, Nigel.
Video file.
Welcome.
Val, it looked like you were going into Messenger to retrieve it from there. I don't know. You'd probably go with the share screen option there. If you downloaded the files, you could just click on the video file, I'm guessing.
Messenger, we can pull it from Messenger too. Either or.
Can you pull it from Messenger?
Yeah, you sure can.
Let's see here.
Yep, you can do it in sequence.
And guys, if you know of any academics who, or anybody in sound or whatever, I don't know, I invite academic scrutiny and scientific scrutiny on any of my recordings. Just bring it on. I want that because I think it needs to be validated. Not that it has to be validated in my mind, but for the general population to accept these, because they're very esoteric recordings. Much of what I've captured is very esoteric. And often,
no, I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely, yeah, I really do. But unfortunately, like Val and I always talk about, no matter what you do present, no matter what you do have, it's never going to be good enough for anybody. So, Grizz asked James to check his audio. It's low. I did. He checked it. How are y'all doing today? And Porter doing fine, thank you. Yep, he checked. All right, Val. There we go.
Let's find
Are you hearing anything on my end?
Can you maybe move your mic closer to yourself that they're asking?
Hold on. Shoot. What's going on here? My music just came on. Okay. Interestingly enough, it actually was playing some Sasquatch stuff. Okay, I'm back. There we go.
Okay.
Hello, Kelly.
Shall we try this again?
Yeah. We're ready.
All right.
Oh yeah.
You guys hear that?
This is.
Riz, can you hear that?
I can
hear it.
Okay, great.
It's actually quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Hep shigo wigga. One of my favorite responses. Just a few moments before that, you heard a wegama or something similar sounding to the response later on by another subject.
It's looping again.
Yeah. So for your audience,
So James, are you using the devices that Robert Kreider has made, or have you checked that stuff out?
No, this is what I'm using. It may have been this one. I have both recorders. I have two of these. They are Olympus DM720s.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see that. So I was turned on to these from a fella out east, and I've been using these, and another one that I don't use as often because it doesn't have a computer interface.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult to transfer the files, though it can be done.
Let's listen to the second one that you have here and see what this is about. Oops.
Oh yeah. Ebenopsy. Ooh ha ha. Can you hear what I'm hearing? Ebenopsy. Ooh ha ha. This is the subject in the background audio of my encounter of October 21st, 2019.
Shall I try to slow this down and see?
Yeah, why don't you pause it? I want to tell the backstory.
Okay.
So this is just me scrubbing back and forth on one vocalization from one individual. In the entire clip, it's a 10-minute clip, and you can listen to it on my YouTube channel, which is Michigan Aboriginal Project. It's voices. What is it? Oh, it's in their midst. Warning, high strangeness. So it's like 10 minutes of the encounter that I endured and recorded. and this happens at the 3 minute 30 second mark. If you want to go listen to it on your, on your own, it's a pretty amazing capture. But there are a lot of little gems like this in these 10 minutes, and I only heard 20 to 30 seconds of that audio that came from them. Before and after that, I knew I could sense something that was what I call a harmonic resonance in their vocals. They can speak within the din of the rain because it was raining at this, and they can very effectively communicate with one another, but we are none the wiser. It's like they're speaking on a level that is just not detectable to us, save for those moments where I detected a little resonance. And actually, during my encounter, I had this, what I think was people likened to the zapping experience. It sounded like a raspy electrostatic sensation on my eardrums, both of them. It was most prominent in my right. It was very, very uncomfortable. Um, but they have an ability to manipulate sound that we can sense and cannot hear, and they can effectively communicate with one another. There were multiple subjects outside my camp that night. Didn't know that until a month later, about a month after I got home, when I listened to the audio, and that screwed me up for another few months because it was a pretty traumatic experience. But I never saw one. They never harmed me. Um, it was good. They later came into the camp and knocked down the pole supporting my tarp. Um, I just kind of let it slide. Tried to get a good night's sleep.
So, so have they ever screamed outside your tent or your
Well,
shelter?
my most recent encounter was with a juvenile. He was about 4 foot tall. I know that because he hissed at me, so it was kind of it could have been a scream, their version of a scream. I don't know, but it wasn't terribly loud, but it was loud enough to scare the heck out of me. It was a gravelly, gurgly hiss that I was in a deep sleep. It was 6 a.m. It was raining, and this little guy had to be, I'm sleeping. This guy had to be within an arm's reach because my head's at the edge of the tent, and I rolled over and it had backed up, and I said, "Hey," and it flinched. But the thing is, I bring that up. The audience can go and seek that out. Most recent publication that says something like encounter audio. You can hear that gurgly, gravelly, hissy thing. And I do a few audio analyses of it, and you can see the spectrogram and see that it is, an event, a vocal event, and it sounds demonic. It really does. And what living creature that is of a good nature wakes another living creature up out of a dead sleep? That was just
Well,
rude. I think it was a juvenile not using very good judgment. And Igor Burtsev, when he's been in town, he always says that they're pranksters, and I think this is probably the case there, because when I said hey, and then I said get out of here, it flinched and then and left. You know, that's how that ended up.
just like kids do. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I don't know of any angels that come along and hiss at people.
Yeah, and who knows if they're angelic? I don't know. I have some that do sound angelic, and others that sound, demonic.
Mhm.
The others that sound gremlinish. In that 10-foot audio that I've published, you can hear me in the background. You can hear them carrying on and doing their communication. And one of the clips I sent you is actually a minute 20 seconds of that, and it begins with a cluck signaling. You have one in the background saying cluck cluck, maybe it's in the foreground, and another one somewhere else. You can tell it's in a different spot. They cluck cluck back and forth, and
Well, let's play this. Let's play this again, and I slowed it down some, and let's see if it makes any difference here. I hear something. I can't make it out. I can't
Oh,
discern.
I translate that Hebenopsy, ooh ha ha, Hebenopsy, ooh ha ha, whatever that means.
That's interesting.
What is that, Grizz?
So this is the device that I purchased, and I use it for paranormal experiences. And it
Okay.
comes with a very, very long cord, and it plugs into your audio recorder, right?
Okay.
And when I say recorders, because I have the same recorders as you have,
Right on.
300 something bucks, right?
Well, when I bought it, I
So
think they were around 150. Yeah, that one looks a little bigger than this one. Yours is probably
yeah.
fancier.
So, and I've got probably about a dozen different types of different ones that I use
Yeah. Yeah.
for paranormal and out in the woods and so forth.
Yeah.
So I have dolls in my studio that are vessels that have attachments to it. And during my live shows, I have activity and poltergeist activity, and it's been documented during my live shows. So I found this little device, and I got it off of Amazon. It's called SoundTech CM-1000. And what this device is, and it's not that expensive, it's for conference rooms to where you slide this in an oblong table for conference meetings where you can record conversations.
Gotcha.
Now, let me explain to you how well this mic picks up. So, my studio is in the back of the house, and I put this up next to the dolls, and I let it run for 2 hours. And my studio is sealed off. Now I've got all the foam around this for sound absorption and all that for recording and audio and live shows. And when I came back and listened to the audio, I was like, they're talking. I'm like, you got to be joking. They're whispering. And I'm like, this ain't happening.
That's some scary
So
stuff.
for 15 minutes, I lost my cool. I was like flipping out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was me at the other end of the house watching TV. That's how well it picked up. Yes, that's how well it picked up.
That's awesome.
So now, when I go out in the woods, I take that with me. And you can string that along. Like if you're camping or something, you can keep your recorder inside the tent and run that along outside and put it on the picnic table or something, or underneath the picnic table to keep it weathered.
Yeah,
I mean, from weather. So, that's how long the cord is.
Okay.
So,
and it's not weatherproof.
CM-1000 SoundTech. And I got mine on Amazon. So I'm just in that. And I mean, it is very, very picky. It picks up minute sounds. I mean, literally, if it picked up the TV at the other end of the house, and I thought the dolls were whispering, I mean, I really thought I had something, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I was like freaking out.
I was going to ask,
like, what are they saying? You know?
Nice question. Where's the footage? That would have been amazing. Yeah.
So, but just throwing it out there, not only for you, but everybody else that's into the paranormal and also into the cryptid world, stuff like that can help, and it may help. So, especially if you don't want to leave recorders outside during the weather or moisture or dew or light rain and whatnot, you can put that speaker underneath the picnic table or, put it in a plastic baggie and tape it underneath the picnic table or to the side of a tree or whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You get the idea, but yeah.
How long is that cord, Chris?
I put it to you this way. I can put it on top of my studio and run it all the way to the door and put my recorder outside the studio door. So I never measure it. So we're looking probably 8 to 10 feet probably. I mean, it's a very long cord. Let me pull it back out here.
I suppose you get longer cords than that too.
Oh yeah, you can actually pigtail it. So I mean, you can see how long the cord is, and that's all jumbled up with the mic. So, and I've got it in my little tray next to me. So yes, and that's, like I said, it's very long. So but
it's a great. I think it's a great idea for around camp. I can't see myself using it out at a remote structure that I find.
No, right.
Because they always
give you some ideas.
Yeah, they most always find these. I sent a recording.
They do.
I believe that they were holding it. The juveniles were holding it, and there was an adult speaking in conventional means, as well. Hey, Ruby. Shh. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, and I suspect that because the recording was actually a seemed close proximity recording, and when I picked up the recorder, it was in like a neoprene sort of sleeve, and it had this sort of an iridescent dust all over it, and I thought it was weird. And I remember just brushing that off, throwing it back in the car. Later, it smelled up my car so badly. I was wondering where this rotting, dying, mildewy thing was, but it turned out to be the very cover of the recorder, the neoprene cover. It was just it's weird. So I think they have a particular scent about them, and I do believe they were
just a
handling the recording. Yeah,
just a crazy thought.
Well, no, I mean, we actually got reports that people will leave them around campsites. They will pick them up, turn them off. And as well as I know, some of them you have to hold the button. Some of them you have to slide a lever to power them on and off. I've taken reports where they have been confiscated during investigations when they're left out around campsites. But, ladies and gentlemen, before they go, they reappear and they're stopped. They're like, hello, don't forget, take them home. And you're like, what in the world? And this is where everybody likes to see me to go, do what? And it just doesn't make any sense. Now, I've got one guy in Southern Kentucky, James.
Sorry about that.
He uses Gorilla Tape. I know that sounds funny. And where they're active, and there's a street sign, yes, Gorilla Tape. I know it sounds funny. And he'll actually take one of these recorders and Gorilla Tape it to the side. And for hours, these daggone creatures will throw rocks at the sign trying to knock it off. And you will hear the sign go dink, dink, donk, dink, and bong, bong, trying to knock it off. And they cannot knock it off the sign. Now, what in the hell does that tell you?
Well, they're not very bright.
This guy is packing. And when I mean he's packing, he's ready to take out a troop of individuals. So, I mean, he is where no man is going to be at 2:30 in the morning out in the woods in the mountains. But he's right off the side of the road, this country road where nobody travels. And he's like, he gets eye shine. He shows the eye shine in his videos, the different colors. But to hear his audio, it's crazy. It really is. So, yeah. So they are intelligent. I do agree with you.
Well, they're incredibly intelligent. I mean, truly, everybody agrees they're masters of their universe. That little one, when I yelled at that little one, I said, "Hey," and I said, "Get out of here." I didn't hear it run away. It was raining, so there was a little camouflage of its sound. But honestly, it was very quiet. If it were a 4-foot tall kid, I would have heard it running away. I didn't hear this thing. They're so adept at keeping. I mean, we are so loud, noisy in the woods. Every step we take as humans, we can't remain silent. A skilled, Indian tracker growing up in the woods. Yeah, I could see they coming up on you and counting coup. Another thing I believe they do is they do count coup, and maybe that little juvenile was simply impressing his friends with a counting coup sort of thing, but he blew it. I think he just decided to have a little fun, which wasn't very fun.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, if we'll stand by, we'll be right back after this commercial break. Thank you. If I can figure out which button to hit. Gentlemen, wasn't that one? Well, right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Rolling the Bones Around the Cage with Grizzly and Pal. This edition is brought to you by Western Kentucky Bigfoot and Paranormal Investigations, LLC. Thank you, Mr. Don Wyden, for another edition. Thank you, thank you. So we have James from Michigan in the house, talking about his recordings and such. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, James, for attending. Glad to have you there.
My pleasure. Sir. My pleasure. Any chance to talk about it? I can't talk about it at home. It's forbidden, as you guys perfectly understand. It's not a subject for everybody.
So James, you have a group on Facebook. It's called Michigan Aboriginal Project. Where does that name come from?
The initial name of I just wanted. When I found out that this phenomenon was real, I just wanted to go see one. And I grew up on a variety of personalities on YouTube learning about this subject, one of whom was Nathan Rio. And he had, I think it was, Utah Sasquatch, something like that? Yeah, okay, Utah. Anyway, he had a video saying how to find Bigfoot in one day. And he actually goes and new area and starts out, shared his methodology, and I'm like, okay, I want to try this one of these days. So that's how I got into it. So I had Michigan Sasquatch as my channel. I just wanted to document my journey. I knew by my own wits and reckoning that the phenomenon was a real thing, right? And I just was doing this tangentially to after a research project and exploring a trip I was going to take up to the Boundary Waters with some buddies. So I eventually clicked on a little Bigfoot video. I went down the rabbit hole, much to my wife's chagrin and my family's chagrin. And like I said, the subject can be taboo. But as a curious kid, with a little spirit of adventure, I just wanted to see one. So I started Michigan Sasquatch, and later changed it to Michigan Aboriginal Project. After I learned, mentally you go through what is this, and it's just getting over the fact that it is a real phenomenon. That's a big enough pill to swallow. But when you learn and you start digging in and having your own experiences and recording your own audio, you learn about this. And I wanted to elevate the discussion. So I changed the name to Michigan Aboriginal Project. Sasquatch is just one name. Aboriginal, I think, these things, if you believe in evolution, these things have been around for millions of years prior to us. I don't. I personally have kind of changed my tune to thinking that their very existence supports the biblical narratives, the stories of the giants in the Old Testament, some of whom have names, like the Zamzummim. And I believe that the topic deserved a little more respect. And Bigfoot and Sasquatch, you mention it to people, that's one way to turn off, 2/3 of society who think this is just a myth. And it's not, it's a real thing. So I wanted to elevate the discussion, the evidence that I have, the totality of the evidence that I have, even without my stuff, my contribution, had I never been born and didn't do any of this, there is enough evidence to convince any jury worldwide, anywhere, that this is a real phenomenon. So, it's not an effort to prove anything. It's just me going out and having fun in the woods and trying to get these vocal gems out there, these little treasures. I kind of like, you're a data miner, right? Right, Val? I'm a miner of gems and vocal artifacts from the woods. That's all. And it's fun. It is fun, and the experiences you have along the way are pretty damn amazing.
Well, sometimes I wonder, and I've said this quietly to myself many times in the past. This is either a curse or a blessing. The Bigfootery. For myself personally, I came into this not by wishing to, as a young boy, wishing to get involved with Bigfoot Sasquatch. Of course, that's not what I did. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I came into this purely by tragic happenstance. And I think you and I discussed this before in the past. So once I got into it, and once I retired, I wanted to take that next challenge. Is this real or is this a myth? I've seen the grocery store fish wrap newspapers, but is it real? So Bob Daigle, Robert Daigle, Michigan.
Yeah.
So I contacted him, and for almost 2 years to the day that I retired and got into this, that's when I had my personal encounter sighting. And from that point on, I'm going to tell you something, brother. It wasn't real easy dealing with that. Not for me.
No, I can't imagine for anybody.
I mean, it was just the idea that you go through all these processes, and understanding that everything that you learned, everything you thought previously, was a big lie. It was a big lie. Here it is, 8.5 foot tall, almost 9 foot tall, hairy beast, up in a tree, looking at you, blinking its eyes at you, and somebody back there in your memory was telling you that that's a lie, a myth, a joke, a subject of ridicule and mockery. And I recall going through the same roller coaster ride with that experience as I did the first time in law enforcement that I came into a homicide scene. And I make the comparisons to my thoughts at that moment in time for me, and I remember this very clearly. Do I really want to see this? Nobody wants to see stuff like that. I didn't. But then I thought to myself, you know what? To be a kid again and to not think about this, not know this stuff, not see it. Where are those days of lazily just laying around in the summer mornings, listening to the lawnmower, smelling the fresh cut grass, not worrying about any of this stuff, not concerned, not knowing any of this stuff? That's innocence, pure innocence.
And ignorance is bliss.
And and once you get into this, you can't get out of it. You really can't.
That's the truth.
I mean, I will at some point. I'm sure you will. I'm sure Grizz will. At some point, we will. But it's a path that's laden with all kinds of surprises, and it's got its own hazards, its own personal hazards and stuff. I don't know about you, but I realize that these things, they recognize people, they know people. The thought that when I was talking to Janice Carter, she says, well, Val, they're staring at you because, and I says, well, when it was looking at me, it was blinking its eyes at me, and I was trying to provoke it because in my mind, that was my way of my defense, my personal defense of trying to determine whether or not this was a joke, or for real and stuff. And to have that thing just blink at me with no emotion. She says it was reading you to see what kind of person you are. That's not very comfortable. That's not a comfortable feeling.
Well, when I realized I was having an encounter, this is the October 21st, where the Ebenopsi Ooh-ha-ha vocal comes. And I do encourage your audience to check that out. It's, again, very esoteric stuff. You will have to acclimate your own hearing to, and I'm still learning news. When I hear it I've listened to it hundreds of times, and I still pick up nuances. It depends on the speakers I'm listening to, the din of whatever environment I'm in, whether it's headphones or an actual nice headset, or if I'm surrounded by my four speakers in my car. That's my favorite way to do it. But you hear different things. So why did I go off on that tangent?
It does make a difference with headphones, and I do agree. And that's what somebody made a comment earlier, that we're not noticing the difference between your audio, because I have indicators and I got soundboards, right, in the studio, so I can monitor everything. So I can pick up things, especially when I do my paranormal shows. When it comes to the dolls above me, I'll be sitting there and somebody be talking. I'll be like, oh, they're like, "Did you hear that?" Because I turn my mic up, right, very sensitive, so everybody else can hear it. But you can hear more things with headphones in your car audio speakers than you can, listen to something from one of these.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why we see on paranormal shows and so forth, people wear headphones while they're recording and listen to it at the same time. Just, so they can listen to it live. But yes, absolutely.
I presume you're of the mind that there are other planes of existence, given the paranormal. I mean, that's just another universe, like the oceans, the depths of the woods. They're so very different. I believe there are other planes of existence. I've often wondered if I'm picking up spirit talk. I don't know, because
that was one of my questions. How do you discern from Sasquatch speak and voice impression that's imprinted into that soil, into that area that you're at now?
You got to test it over time. So this is where the scientific method comes in. And I just had an idea. I learned about the structures, and I'm thinking, if they're there, they're likely to be there again. And I just started dropping recorders. It's not that simple. There's a fellow, what's his name? Christopher Noel, out in the East Coast. He encouraged me to start audio, and I resisted because I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and I'm busy enough as it is already. However, it did enhance my experience because it took me to a new level in understanding the nature of these creations. And quite honestly, I probably understand them less now than I did before. Just knowing that they're so much more than what people believe. I do believe they're a race of ancient humans. They're if you believe in evolution, my thoughts on evolution are challenged by this phenomenon, because they can endure all climes of this world. The northern climes, the hottest, climates. I don't know. The more I learn about these things, the more I want answers. And I think that some of those answers may, and I don't know, but they may be in the Bible.
And I do believe in the biblical realm. I do believe in the supernatural. But everybody knows who Ron Moorhead is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he is one of my admins in a couple of my Facebook groups. And before he come out with his book with quantum mechanics and quantum physics about Bigfoot, beginning of this year, and we talked, and I had him on one of my shows, and the conversation we had was very interesting because he said it like this, and I can't quote him verbatim, I mean it's on one of my shows, but he said, Grizz, if we would have talked about stuff like this 20 years ago, I would laugh at you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have people that believe that these things are flesh and blood only. And we have people believe that these are supernatural beings or creatures. Now, I know for a fact they bleed. I know for a fact they can be killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have seen videos that these things allegedly comes out of portals. I have seen pictures of flashes of light that pertain to alleged portals.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing these creatures. So, and like he said, we not only have to think outside of the box, but we also have to look over the box now. because science cannot just use mathematics to solve an equation to put things in perspective for our human minds to understand or comprehend. Because there are things out here in this world which states in Genesis, God created creatures that are seen and unseen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there are things that walk upon this earth that should not exist, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the non-believers, you take that as you want and as you wish, however. But it's always those ones that do not believe end up having an encounter, and they either crap themselves, they come down with PTSD, and they are literally messed up for life because now they don't go hunting, they don't go fishing, they don't go back in the woods, and their whole life is turned upside down. Then we have the people that come on the shows and they're apologizing to people because now they have that guilty conscience because all their lives they crucified people because of what they believed in, or what they said they saw, right?
Yeah, I am formerly atheist, and let the set the set the Bigfoot subject aside. Just talk about God. I'm formerly atheist. I've experienced enough in my life to have come around. I've actually been in a few Bible studies over the past 15 years, and have learned a lot. And it has me wondering what I stand corrected. So far, I've not found any lies in the Bible. I have a personal little agenda. I hope to inspire young men who are otherwise depressed and marginalized in today's increasingly feminized society that this God thing is real. We have but one Father, so get over your own daddy issues. I've had enough of my own. And there is such wonder and mystery out there, and a sense of adventure. There's a passage in Jeremiah, it's 33:3. It's wow, we just had a wind burst come through here.
Yeah, we're supposed to have some bad storms.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder about our umbrella in the back, but they'll take care of itself. Where was I going, gentlemen?
An experience with biblical reference.
Yeah, well, I just found out there's so much to learn, and the more I learn, of course, the more I realize that we don't know anything. But there are some openings in the Bible that have tickled my curiosity and further propels my motivation to seek answers. Like the mention of the Zamzumim people in Deuteronomy 2nd chapter verse 20. They got their name from an ancient Hebrew word, which is an onomatopoeia, which is zimzum. And apparently it means to buzz or to hum. I have ample audio examples of buzzing and humming. And in my encounters, it's particularly the one of October 21st, 2019. I sensed that buzzing and humming, that harmonic resonance, that, it's real. I mean, it's energy. So going back to Ron's, contention that we're all energy. That night I didn't see a single subject. I only heard them and knew that something amazing was going on. And that moment when I knew that it was happening, I felt this big. I mean, I have never felt smaller in my life. And that's a very, what's the word?
Humbling experience.
Oh God, yes. And I honestly thought there was my last moments. I remember telling my daughter of it. I started to emote, weep a little bit because it was that powerful. But I felt as if I were being judged because I was so insignificant and so little at that moment, not knowing that I was surrounded by multiple subjects. I thought it could have been one or maybe two, and I knew they don't travel alone. Maybe there are three, but there turns out to be multiple vocal signatures, individual vocal signatures. One of the recordings I got is "Are you wreaking havoc?" in a voice that sounds very gremlinish, and some moments later, maybe a minute, maybe two, the same voice says, "Havoc, hate this man tomorrow." I mean, are we talking a spiritual realm right there? Manifest, because it was raining. I hear about elementals, and maybe they move with the weather or the weather. They're near water, and I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know anything. All I know is that what I've learned from the umpteen hours that I've done reviewing audio, I did a little bit today. I have some amazing audio expressions. I have over nearing 200 clips over where am I? I'm at 10 hours, 38 minutes. And I've got a bunch of this stuff. So are they all spirit? Are they just voices in the wind? You know, is it a manifestation or some sort of miraculous combination of melodic dripping in, you know, of the rain? You know, is it that kind of stuff? Are there fairies? Are they real? I don't know, because I believe that these Sasquatch speak in a way with this harmonic resonance. Sometimes they sound like fairies, or gremlins. I have one that sounds like an angel, and others, you know, I have one expressing. It sounds phonetically. This is the way it sounds in my ear. Sound. The voice says, "I had an ascension," and just a moment after that, a different voice sounds something like "Kumbaya," and that's in Voices from the Depths of the Woods. That recording was captured 2 nights after the encounter of October 21st, 2019. And that recorder 2 nights later, it was captured when it wasn't raining. It was my first time recording at this TP, and I got plenty of conventional speech, even conventional speech, again, mixed in with that melodic clicking and clucking, like FFFine, click, click, clucker, you know, cluck, cluck, FSatif, things like that. Just wild, bizarre stuff. So this phenomenon, not only is it real, it has supernatural and paranormal depth that is very difficult to digest, you know, to process. It's like, this can't be real, but it is. But it is.
So there's some reports that I've gotten in Michigan, my home state, Michigan, of hearing drum beats, thumping percussion instruments, such as native Indian drum beats, prior to Sasquatch visitations around campsites and stuff. Have you encountered that?
I've not encountered that. I have recorded, actually not far from Ann Arbor, Michigan, recorded that escalating these thumps. Have I recorded that up north? I can't think of anything specifically right now. About having recorded that up north, but I have recorded different vocal expressions and modalities, if you will, in southern Michigan than I have in northern Michigan. So I believe that there are many types of these creations, that they're not all the same. They probably segregate amidst themselves in some natural order. Don't know, because some of the stuff I've recorded downstate here is really quite different from that which I've recorded up in the depths of the woods up north.
Because the report that I'm referring to came from the Jackson area, Jackson, Washtenaw area, which is very, very close to Ann Arbor. And it also, if you believe in coincidences, and I don't, that area, that specific area, all through that Waterloo, Pickney state parks, if any of the listeners familiar with the area, those are 2 huge, massive state parks in the midst of very, very populated, developed areas. Am I correct, James?
Yeah,
Ann
you
Arbor,
are. Yeah.
All
it's
these
all part of the
developed.
system.
Yes.
And I've said it before. They live in our watersheds, or their watersheds. You know, Detroit's a unique community, and it was sort of underscored or confirmed to me that it's a viable area, because I once upon a time I hired Cliff Barrickman to come in and do a little presentation at a local bar here. It was the first time I publicly aired my earlier vocal captures, and I really didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time, even though I knew I had something unique and special. It was likely connected to this phenomenon. But he said that if they had carried on that season, another season, if it had lived one more year, they were going to do an urban Sasquatch segment, and Detroit was their number one pick. We have three watersheds. We got the Huron, we got the Rouge, and the Clinton, surrounded by all that. They each have their main, rivers and all their tributaries. They're contributing, feeder streams. That even our drainage ditches, even our subterranean drainage ditches, are part of their universe. So Mount Clemens, there was a sighting years ago, and then I early on my YouTube channel, there was a fellow that worked up there and said, "You got to come see what's beyond the factory that I work in." So I went up there and checked it out, and I did find structures and other interesting, anomalous physical manifestations that might suggest, something's living in this area and even recreating in that area.
And that's St. Clair County.
Where's Mount Clemens? Isn't that County?
It's Macomb County, St. Clair County, all in that eastern area.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because there was a report that was brought to light from Russia that came by way of Paris, France, if you believe this, very early 1800s, by a furrier, a fur trader, a person that makes their money, their enterprise, from selling furs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of southeastern Michigan, as you know, was inhabited by French people.
Yeah.
Thus, Frenchtown Township, Monroe County.
Detroit.
Detroit. A lot of these names are French. That's where they come from. So there is a very, very old story in the 1800s where the fur traders, there were just villages all along the river at that point, from the Detroit River south, where I'm at, downriver Detroit, up to the St. Clair River, up close in your area. There was a report by some native Indians who were hunters who came to the French furrier and told him of a tribe of, I don't think he used the word Sasquatch, but I think it was translated to monster, a tribe of monsters walking this way, walking south from the Bay County area, Lake River, the Tittabawassee River. Are you familiar with that up there?
Yeah, Saginaw.
Yes, in Saginaw Bay County. They seen them up there, and the hunters came back south, north of Detroit, which would be Mount Clemens, St. Clair County. They said that they seen them up there near the river, heading towards Lapeer County. Then they said that they seen them close to that St. Clair County and Macomb County area. Then they came in. Then this group of multiple Sasquatches came into this village. At that time, they said that the bells. Remember, these are old villages, and when I read this report, I had memories, I had visions of old medieval European villages. They said that when the multiple Sasquatches walked into this village, the bells on the building began to toll.
Wow.
I don't know if it was because somebody in the village, was ringing the bell like a town crier.
Like an alert, yeah.
Yeah. They said that their dogs disappeared in the village. Dogs disappeared. They said that when they passed through the cornfields around the village, the corn dried up and died. They said that excuse me, the dairy cows were milked dry, and to the villagers, living in a village like that, very agricultural. Those people starve without milk and meat and vegetables and stuff like that. So the villagers got together, and they were very, very superstitious. They got together with pitchforks and weaponries, and they were going to kill him. The Sasquatches, the group, fled. It's described as an island. They went across the lake or the river to an island, and I believe it's Harson's Island.
You know, there have been reports on Harson's Island.
Yes.
I read that recently.
And they said that the townspeople, the villagers, got their boats and canoes, whatever they had to float with. They were going to go over there and hunt them down and kill them, because, you know, they virtually destroyed this village. When they got over there to that island, which, by the way, for me, I'm familiar with that island because, you know, they had deer hunting there at one time. And I wanted to go over there and get a lottery ticket and go over there and hunt, but I couldn't. Story of my life. So they get over there and there's nobody there. They're not there. So I'm thinking they either went swimming to Canada, Ontario, Canada, or went underwater and found their way through these underwater tributaries, which I believe there's a lot of them under Michigan. And they found themselves right back up there in Bay County, in Saginaw County. Once again, they were reported up there just as quick. So that was early 1800s, and that report went by courier, because in the 1800s they didn't have ships. They didn't have airplanes. They didn't have electronics that we have. It took a long time for mail to get from Michigan to France, and sometime during the revolution in Russia, all this information came out, and Igor brought that back, sent that back here, that old report that he found on Michigan. Igor from Russia.
Sure.
He's got some ties in Michigan. He's got some ties with our friend Bob Daigle, and it's good of him to keep his eye open like that.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And the Russians, they're still scratching their heads why we're not open about this subject. It's really an odd thing. I don't know. I just think people need to realize that this is a real thing, and the giants they still dwell, on the outskirts of our existence. Oftentimes, our existence overlaps. I know. You can go to Southfield. I know a place there where I have recorded audio, Sasquatch vocalizations, the very weird stuff, the clicky, clucky, weird stuff. So they're everywhere.
They've been here for a long time.
Yeah. And to be able to live in it, it just tells me that if evolution is a thing, and, I still maintain it's a theory. I used to be all over the evolution thing and thought other people who thought another way were crazy, but I've really kind of changed my perspective because I don't know. I just don't know. Well, but I believe the very existence of these creations and the descriptions of them appearing and disappearing. Davy Crockett wrote about it. Mm-hmm. He wrote it to his brother-in-law, Abe, and described his experience, and it had a message for him. It said, give up the campaign. Then, of course, Davy Crockett didn't listen, or if he did, he wasn't able to persuade others of the convictions of this apparition that appeared to him in a Texas thicket. But that led to their demise. If he had listened to this, creation, what it might be.
There's earlier reports in Michigan of the missionaries, the French missionaries being some of the first people to set their foot on this, English people, European people, to set their foot on this ground, this terra firma, that they had to fight off Sasquatches off the Detroit River with swords, with those long swords. Can you imagine? Yeah, beat them to death with a sword. There's earlier reports, 1700s, going back to the 1700s now, 1800 period, where General Hull and some of the British generals reported Sasquatches all along the roads that we know, being from the area, we know Fort Street. They had to fight them off. And in the Detroit city itself proper, the old fort there, they had to fight off the Sasquatches that were scaling the walls and stealing their food.
Wow.
So they've been here a long, long time.
And we still hear stories that are the same, them appearing and disappearing, stealing food, that's seems par for the course. So why don't we accept this as a society, as a real phenomenon? Why is it being buried? Do you believe that, the conspiracies of the Smithsonian, having, acquired giant bones and then later claiming that they're all but, gone.
Well, it's a mystery.
Yeah, no, it is. And it still tickles my brain, and I go hot and cold on this stuff, and I don't feed the algorithm on YouTube. I don't actively engage on a consistent basis on my Facebook channel at all. I can only take so much in a busy life, and right now I'm looking for work again. I lost my most recent job, so I'm going to take this time to maintain my sanity, maybe dip into the subject a little more, because for the past 7 months I really hadn't done much at all other than my usual camping trips, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to drop a recorder, but to go through all the audio, it's another thing, and it causes friction in the domestic scene. It can, so you got to learn to balance all that. I've learned that. My wife, when she was my fiance, she almost left me. I was so convinced that this was real, and I was so inspired as the adventurist in me. I wanted more, and I knew what I was doing was based in reality. She didn't quite get it, and that's understandable. I get it, and thank goodness that we have remained together. She's an amazing woman. So yeah, this subject has a unique place in my life, and it goes hot and cold. I think I can do a lot more, and Val, you've encouraged me to get on, do a podcast. I actually am grateful for this opportunity and others like it, where I can voice, because this is my comfort zone, quite honestly. I'm not so disciplined that it could guarantee that I'm going to be on every, once a week and talking about a different subject. And I've got relationships within the family and here at home to maintain. So I need to keep it in this place. I think a book might be in order. I have literally volumes of audio evidence supporting my current thinking about the nature of these creations. I just hope that people start considering the greater realities of this crazy world, and as even though Bigfoot sounds crazy, it's one of the very few things in my life that actually brings me sanity, because it's very real. It's the most incredible, one of the easiest things I think to prove, but one of the most difficult things to convince others that exist. It's a little quagmire, but is what it is. It provides me some sanity. It enables me to stimulate parts of my brain that might that just keeps me going. That's all. Keeps me based and grounded.
Grizz, how did you get involved in this topic?
So basically, I started out in the paranormal realm, having encounters when I was younger, when my grandfather passed, having paranormal encounters and events, and watching the shows and Monster Quest and the paranormal shows on TV and the Bigfoot shows. And, you know, being a big deer hunter, I mean, I grew up out in the country, ladies and gentlemen. And I never forget the day that my dad and I were deer hunting. He was like, "You smell that, son?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was like, "The deer were just here." And I'm like, today, I'm like, hell no, that was not deer. No way in hell.
It's either
So
Salvation Army or Bigfoot.
yeah, right. So, and I was oblivious to things in the woods that I would see and not even think nothing of. You know, when it comes to structures, tree bends, formations, whatever you want to call it, you know. And you know, I never forget turkey hunting and trying to get this one turkey, you know, in this one county not too far away, and I was crawling. And I was in a place where nobody was at, and I'm like, man, what in the world is this dude coming down this valley just making this horrible racket, you know? And this turkey, we just turned around, and I'm like, man, this turkey is a long ways off. But I had a 3.5-inch mag with that extra, you know, turkey wide tight choke and fiber optic, you know, the top of the line stuff back then. And I was like, why not? I was like, oh, well, wham! Man, I let go of that damn. The only thing I saw was feathers. And I'm like, you got to be joking. And man, this thing took off running. And I was like, that is not a human being. And it was up on the ridge when I saw it then. And I was like, what? So, you know, and I was like, you know, at first, you know, I'm thinking it's a guy in a ghillie suit. So, you know, I blew a lot of things off, you know, and I didn't. And then, you know, as I got older and I talked to people around in the community, they're like, so you used to go hunting in so and so. I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's off so and so street. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's so and so's property. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, did you ever encounter anything? I'm like, what do you mean encounter anything? And everybody else knew. And because all the farmers knew. And I'm like, well, how come nobody told me? You know, I'm out there and now, you know, I do not go out in the woods alone. I don't care if it's daylight or dark time. I do not go by myself. Now, sir, I will tell you this. And I have seen Barb Sheep's video where a Bigfoot has cloaked.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing?
Now, if you've never seen that, like Predator, that scared the hell out of me. And then Val brings guests on, you know, that has, you know, tribal backgrounds and Indian blood or whatever you want to call it. And they teach us language and phrases. And they're like, yeah, don't go out in the woods by yourself. You may run into a rogue. And I'm like, what? You know, and everybody's like, oh, they're so nice and fluffy, and they feed them, and they want to hug and kiss them. And I'm like, you all are crazy. You know, and then, you know, I realized that when I grew up in the country, people known that they have been on their property for generations. And people my age in Val are seeing this. People are coming forward. They're like, yeah, we known about this. My grandparents always told us, don't hunt on this side of the farm, stay on this side. We have an agreement. What the hell you mean you got an agreement? You all sit there having a conversation, you know, and people are coming forward now because it's not taboo as much as it was 10 or 15 years ago, and people are more reluctant to talk about it. But still, in some small communities, there, you know, people will not talk about their families of Sasquatches on the property because they're afraid of who may come on the property and harm them or camp out or hunters and so forth. But so that's how I got involved, and it just spirals. So do they exist? Absolutely. Do fairies exist? I've seen fairies. People that are in my audience or our audience right now that are listening have seen fairies on our show live flying from the camera, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Val can take that and we can go back and play the videos. You can see the fairies fly with wings and legs in front of the camera. I'm like, look, did you see that? That was a fairy. And the people in the room like, yes, we have fairies. And they're very excited. And when they get excited, they show themselves. And I'm like, wow. you know, and people always made fun of me for years, and people are like, yes, fairies do exist, elementals do exist, yowies or yowas, Star Wars figures, those little things out in the desert that scavenge things. You know what I'm talking about? Those ones in the robes.
Mhm.
The only thing you see is the eyeballs, not the Ewoks, but the other little creatures. You know what I'm talking about now?
Creepy stuff.
Yeah. I've got a lady that's a host of mine. She has elementals on her prop. She's got a Ring doorbell. Now, let me tell you something. She is not tech set. Now, if this was anybody else besides her, I'd be like, no, this is fake. This is AIG, CGI, chat, whatever you want to call it, all fake, doctored up. But she is capturing creatures that you cannot. I mean, it just, ladies and gentlemen, it does not add up. I mean, we show her videos, we show her pictures. We have one that's sitting in her flower trough on her back deck that's 8.5 feet off the ground. She went out with a tape measure and got the footprints and measured the prints where it looked like it sat there. It looked like a baby doll in the flower trough on her security cam. And we're like, what? What is that? And you see it turn its head and look, and it's like, what?
God.
Yeah. And she was like, I was afraid to go outside. I'd be afraid to go outside too. And then she gets audio where there is a duck and she has no water. And it's a duck, quack, 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 or an owl, right? And you're like, what the hell? Did you not just give up? And like, what? I'm not doing it. So, and it's like the other night, you know, and I was going to tell Val this before, because I got woods right outside the house. You know, I moved back to the country, my hometown, and I snuck outside 2-something in the morning, take out trash, you know, sleep in the trash can, and I heard birds. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 2-something in the morning, there are not birds out.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think that my crippled butt did not try to run inside the house as fast as I could? So yes,
I don't want to hear birds at 2:00 in the morning. I'll tell you that.
No, and they were very close. So yes, and it was more than one. That's what's weird, because one was like, you know, across the road, and the other one was like behind the house. And I'm like, oh, I know what that is. That's communication. So yeah, but yeah. So I know what you're all talking about. Russell Easterbrooks knows what I'm talking about. Welcome, Russell. He's a great guy, good investigator, researcher. But that's how I got involved. And my daughter's all involved in it. And I used to go out in the woods all the time, mushroom hunting for morels and, you know, turkey, deer hunting by myself. Now, no, not me. Sorry.
It takes a lot of process. You got to go through a lot to get back into the woods. I love where I go. I've been going there forever, and I believe these creations in the midst of where I like to spend my time know me. I think they probably have grown up with me in a way. Although I think their lifespan is probably a lot longer than ours, given their physical abilities and their immense size. And it's just, again, a phenomenon that I can't fully wrap my head around. But I believe that, you know, the valley I go to is therapeutic on so many levels, spiritually, you know, psychologically. It's so peaceful. It is as primordial of a slice of land as primordial as it primordial ever has been. Every bit as primordially as it was eons ago, I'm sure, because there's nothing there. Why, you know, it changes over time, but its nature doesn't. And its creations, you know, you have to wonder. I've been reading this, The Unseen Realm, a little bit. It's taken me forever to get through it, by Dr. Michael Heiser, who's a Hebrew scholar. He talks about the supernatural aspects of the, you know, of the perception of the worldview of the writers of the Old Testament. You know, there is a supernatural aspect. So, like I said, back to the mysteries of the depths of the ocean. The mysteries of the depths of the woods, even here in Michigan, are every bit as intriguing, and we don't know the half of it, and I'm not
No,
sure
we
we ever
don't.
will.
We really don't. And, and we are so conditioned, sir, that, what we are taught, what is real and what is not real,
Yeah.
what to
Well,
believe in, what not to believe in, right?
talk about conditioning and indoctrination. A friend of mine, an art teacher across the way, he works at a local school. He brought this home for me, Storyworks. And if you look down here on the bottom right, it has a little thing about,
Mhm.
is Bigfoot real? So you open up, just it's the first major, sort of publication. The highlighted words throughout this article are tall tales, is emboldened. You can see that. Um, where is it? Can you see tall tales
Yeah.
in there?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Legends, it
Mhm.
says, and evidence, quote unquote. They're indoctrinating these. And the assignment at the end of this is a scholastic publication that all of our kids go through. A kid from church says, I love Scholastic. If it's not Scholastic, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. He's already down. He's already crossed the line. He's been indoctrinated. There's an assignment. The assignment is convince your friends why they don't exist. After have those emboldened, you're reading this stuff. You might not notice that they're emboldened words, but all this like casting doubt, these seeds of doubt.
Mhm.
It's indoctrination because this phenomenon is as real as rain, and it can be beautiful, it can be terrifying, but it is real. And if you want to test your mettle, far too few young men out there today have heroes. And who's testing their mettle? Who are on their own accord are testing their mettle? As a young man or young boy, my parents broke up early. I lived with three sisters and my mother. My mother's name is Gay, and for the audience, my last name is Lady. So I was the only son of Gay Lady with three sisters. Yeah, it's funny. We all have a
Yeah,
sense of humor
right.
about it, but it's the truth, and it's every bit as unbelievable as to some people God, or to other people Bigfoot. I mean, some people believe these are phenomenal, you know, phenomenons that are not to be believed. But that's the greatest, you know.
Brother, grow up with a name like Valentino,
Yeah,
and I'm
there
gonna
you
tell you
go.
something. There's been a lot of schoolyard kerfuffles happening over that.
It makes you a
That
tough one, right?
it
You don't
does.
back down to opposition.
It does.
Uh, yeah, I've had, you had to learn early. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm quick and I'm pretty precise.
You're either quick or you're good. You're good with gab.
Well, yeah, that's your number one weapon, the pen
Hmm.
or your mouth. Choose your words carefully.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah, you know, we were Grizz and I were talking with Daniel Perez. You're familiar with the Daniel
I know the
Perez?
name. I don't know him too much.
He's been involved in Bigfootery for quite a while, at least 26 years by his count. That's how long he's been involved in the Bigfoot Bulletin uh, newsletters.
Okay.
But we were talking about um, the 1965 Monroe Monster event down in Monroe, Michigan, because he he wanted to interview um, the central figure of that report, which at the time was a 16-year-old girl, very pretty girl, and she was. In the short of the story was she was driving a car, 16 years old in 1965. That's how young kids learned how to drive on these country back roads. The sheriffs, the police, they would know this. They would turn their face the other way because that's the way we did it back then. She had a Sasquatch come out of the field in Monroe County, and it's at night. It's August. It's the weather is like it is now, very hot and humid, storm threatening all day. There's no street lights. It's pretty remote, especially back in that in that time period. And she screams, and the first thing that she does is her foot hits the brake. She stalls the car out. The window is down because 1965, there wasn't a lot of people with money to have luxury items such as power windows. So that was the only air conditioning you had in a car in those days was the window rolled down. So the individual, the Sasquatch, reaches the car. The girls scream, the mother and the daughter scream, the Sasquatch screams, and in that excitement, the girl is grabbed and she is brought against the doorpost, and she sports the big black eye, and that's the picture that was captured, for worldwide publications and stuff. So Daniel wanted to interview this woman who is a grandmother now. And I know that her son was on my group site, my Facebook group site, Michigan Bigfoot Reports and Data, Gumshoe Guy's Corner. And I tried many, many times in speaking with this gentleman, and I'm not going to disclose his name now, but I really wanted him to know that, I was a fervent supporter of his mother as a retired police officer. I went back. I was aware of this incident, but I went back and pulled all these old news articles and read them all. And suddenly I'm looking at this stuff, with a different perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective of a police officer. Is this the right procedures? Is this what I would have done if somebody made a complaint, a call for service, alleging that a wild animal harmed somebody? Would I tell my people to not take that report, to disregard it as a fraud, as a fake, or would I send them out there just to ensure that everything is okay, especially if there was information that somebody was injured?
Yeah, do the latter.
Apparently, none of that happened, and as the days rolled on, that tiny little sleepy town got a lot of attention, and I believe politics and money had a lot to do with it, but the woman and her mother were lambasted in the media as fakes, as liars, being called 16 years old. Think about this. 16 years old, you're thinking about prom, you're thinking about graduating with your schoolmates, and to be lambasted like that throughout the newspapers as telling a lie all over your community, all over the world, is just an incredible experience to go through, especially in those formative years, when this young adult has to live through this. So, I asked her son if I could talk to her to his mother, and he was very adamant, very, very protective of his mother, and that is the harm that this kind of stuff does to people.
Yeah,
Grizz was talking about this earlier.
It's awful.
You don't live this stuff down easily, and you have scars that stay with you a lifetime. I mean, I've got hundreds of thousands of reports of adults making reports. When I was a kid, this is what happened to me, but I didn't tell anybody about it. But I'm older now, and I want to share this and get it off my chest. But I want to tell you that, I have post-traumatic syndrome over this. This is how it affected me.
Wow.
And I want to share this. And by sharing this is my way of medicating myself and this is what I read over and over and over again with people. And the only reason why, in my mind, that this happens to people is because we're led to believe that this is a joke. This is silliness. I think that publications call it a tale. You know the difference between a tale and a true story?
Indoctrination.
Yes.
Indoctrination.
The tale is a lie. It's a tongue-in-cheek way of saying that that's a lie, and this is what we're made to consume and stuff. And it's just a bad thing. I think just really bad.
Yeah, it's terrible. But the old, back to Michael Heiser's, investigating the worldview of those the Second Temple Jewish community that wrote the Old Testament, or legacies of those people that wrote down these ancient tales, that it was considered common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Today it's not. It's been poo-pooed, it's been minimized and cast off to the side. And it's a damn shame that people who have these, I know what PTSD is about. I mean, for a month after my encounter, I was a wreck. And then I listened to the audio, and that screwed me up for a few more months. And we're talking another 4 months. I mean, it affected everything, because it goes against everything that we've ever been told, except from a biblical perspective, which more and more of us are, hell, I'm formerly atheist, and I've only been studying the Bible for, 15, since 2008 or 9. So, but it's real. There's a reality out there. And this is the greatest thing about the Bigfoot. It's based in reality, and it's brought me sanity in this otherwise insane world. This poo-pooing of people who want to tell their story and can't is a symptom of an insane and sick society, if you ask me.
It's something I don't do. I know I've heard about it. I've seen it. I've heard it. I don't make it a practice, even myself. I don't make it a practice to leave an open tape recorder in my house. And I think the last time I did, I left it in the basement, and I thought I heard a voice on that recorder, and I don't want to pick up anything. I live very close to a great big cemetery, and there was rumor on my property, and my house, where my house sits, there was supposed to be a box in the ground. This is a very, very old city, and I've never went out on treasure hunt to discover that box. I don't want to know about it. I think I planted a garden on it one time, but there's other situations like that where I know for a fact that the city is so old that there's been instances of, I've had people come up to me, Val, I was putting up a vinyl fence, and I was digging the post, and I dug up a headstone and some bones and stuff. Do you know how that can happen?
Oh my God.
Well, back when my friend was alive, he was a well-known historian, and in fact, he wrote some books about Michigan, Detroit, the Prohibition period. And he used to read these books, or write these books, and he'd send me the transcripts and ask me to look it over. And he was a historian. He was a school principal. And I'd look at it and say, yeah, that's pretty good. So he'd publish these books, and you see them all over the Southeast Michigan area. I know I haven't seen them outside the state, but I know I've seen a lot of them throughout the area. My point is this. When I was talking to him, he says, you got to remember, this is a very, very old city. And years ago, decades ago, a lot of what you see now didn't exist. It was farmland.
Oh, yeah.
And people had farms. They had large tracts of property, and they had that for many, many generations. And then when they die off, they give the property to their younger children. their children sell the property to developers. The developers take the property and parcel it out to builders, and that's how they create these subdivisions all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So he says it's very, very plausible that if that was part of a large farming property back 100 years ago, 150 years ago, they never had funeral homes. When somebody died, they buried that their family member right there on their property.
Yeah.
And so now you've got that property sold off, parceled off, and now you're finding stuff that it wasn't supposed to be found. So back to the tape recorder. I don't do that, but I can tell you this, and Grizz, I don't think I've ever shared this with you. But when I bought this house that I'm in now, it was a brand new house. We were the first persons to live here. One night, and I worked midnights for 15 and a half years, very, very tough. Sleep was a premium back then. One night I woke up and I don't know why, but my eyes opened up and I seen an Indian man in my bedroom upstairs. He was standing in the doorway between the master bedroom and the bathroom. And I honestly thought that someone broke into my house looking like this. And when I say Indian, Native Indian, this looked like he looked like a Native Indian from the 1800s, 1700 periods,
Awesome.
And he was staring at me, looking at me. And he had a surprised look on his face as though I wasn't supposed to see him. And I tried to wake my wife up. I mean, I want her to witness this. This is an anomaly. I want her to see this because I don't want to be the only person to see this.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned something to that effect earlier in this program. I don't want to be the only one to see this. You see this. I couldn't get her awake at that point. But there was no talking. I didn't see his mouth moving or anything. But I wanted to get up and go to my closet and get my gun because, again, I thought it was an intruder in my home.
Sure, right.
The only time I've ever seen something like that. But the thought that I got reminded me of that Bigfoot Sasquatch encounter in 2014, Washtenaw County, Waterloo Park. And that was the thought. I didn't see the man's mouth move. I didn't hear a voice, but I felt the thought, and I was thinking that this individual was speaking to me, and what it communicated to me in thought was, just relax. I'm not here to harm you. Nobody's gonna harm you. I'm just passing through. Just relax. And with that, I went back to sleep. Woke up the next morning, everything was bright and sunny and there's nothing standing in that doorway. So I had to call my sister and ask her what she thought about that because I knew she was down in South America at that time period. And I thought maybe because of the individual she was meeting with down there, I thought maybe they sent something up here because of the culture that we live in.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but that is my experience with that. I've seen it with my own eyes. But it reminded me when this whole region flooded a few years ago and FEMA come out here.
Yeah.
And I had FEMA in my house, and I was talking to the gentleman, offered him drink, pop, coffee, water, nothing. He was very stoic, very professional, very no nonsense. If you ever talk to these guys, they're no nonsense. And he told me, yeah, I'm a retired officer out of Georgia State Patrol. And then I went to work for federal government. Okay. And then he says, he wanted my information. And then he asked me, he says, where's your service line at? I said, it's outside. I'll show you where it's at. So as he's walking in front of me out to the back door, he stops, he pulls his lip down. And I says, why are you asking me where the service line is? You're coming over here about flooding and stuff and damage that I incurred over flooding. Why are you asking me about the service line? He stops, holds me up at the back door, pulls his lip down. And he says, because in a few years, we're all going to have this. This is how we're going to track people.
No kidding.
Do you hear what I'm saying, my friends?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is for real.
Danger.
This is absolutely for real. But anyways, those are some of the thoughts. Those are some of the things that I have encountered and experienced over the years. And whatever we experience in life, it's a culmination of everything that we've read, everything we learned, everything we heard, we've seen. These are all our experiences. That's how we learn things. And that's how we impart things to others. You can either take it as BS, or you can take it for what it's worth and pay heed, So, I don't want to mess. I don't want to mess with stuff that I'm not supposed to be into.
Agreed. I don't know how you have those dolls in your home there, Grizzly. I tell you, that kind of stuff creeps me out.
It is a long story, and it's very creepy. And I'm binding them. I bless them. And if you watch the other shows, you'd be like, "What?" Yeah, it's very interesting. So yes.
I mean, I've went as far as blessing my houses. Whenever we buy a house, and I flipped a house, bought a house, I bought some property, a couple properties. The first thing I do is I do a background investigation on the property. For me, my thought is I don't want a piece of property where I know something tragic occurred.
Sure.
I don't want it. I don't want the problems. I don't want the history. I don't want any of that stuff. And so we go through that. We go through that comfort of having the house blessed and stuff, cleansed.
There's something to it. You hear often in people's encounters, when they invoke the name of Jesus Christ, things kind of get better.
That is correct.
There is spirit out there, and you want to get. I mean, is it the Native Americans that practice the sage? I don't know where that tradition came.
Yeah, they do. They call it sage, or they call it sweetgrass and stuff like that. My partner for many years was Ojibwa.
Yeah, I think universally, all cultures appreciate this otherworldly aspect of life. And all First Nations on the subject of Bigfoot, they all have names for them. Sometimes there's a good connotation, other times it is negative. I don't know. I'm still trying to remain as ignorant as I can possibly be in the woods, even though I've had many experiences with these. I think there's more to it. My ultimate goal is to dialogue with an adult, preferably, not a screaming little juvenile who likes to wake you up in the early wee hours of the morning. But there's so much more to this phenomenon and its related cousin phenomenons that and who knows, who's to say that they're related or not related. I don't know.
And cousins, what you mean, the Yowies and
even like the elementals. I mean, there's got to be we're all made of the same hidden stuff, right? So and like Ron Moorhead's contention, we're all energy, and I believe that to a degree, but we have limitations. We have limitations in our own ability to detect the presence of Sasquatch around us, other than maybe a strange sensation on your eardrums. I think we've lost out on a lot. I don't know why, but there's just too much that we don't know, and it's by our very nature, which I think is an evil nature, to keep the general populace hidden from certain realities of the world.
I think that human beings are very, very intelligent by origin, but
We're also easily misled.
well, that's by design, isn't it? If we were made to be dumber in some aspects, and if I could use that word, or less aware of exactly what our strengths and weaknesses are, then we could be led around easily, more easily than we are. I think a lot of us have gifts that we have no idea. We have no idea what they are. And we're more intuitive than we think we are, all of us. But we just haven't recognized that. We weren't raised to enrich ourselves like that.
No, we're raised too soft these days.
Speaking of, what do you call, you said something about, you made a motion to your ear when you
sensing the Sasquatch beast, as in my encounter where there were multiple subjects. They were there before I even realized it, and long after I thought perhaps they were gone, because but there was this sensation I could detect, whether that be the hairs on the back, but the actual raspy electrostatic experience on my eardrums was very real. And it was not, I mean, I can't, well, I don't want to say it was not of natural origins, because they're every bit as natural, to the woods as we are to our barca loungers, right? So
just to say this, and I mentioned this before, very early in my adult life, I went through some training that's outlawed now. It's illegal. And it was called EST, E-S-T, not E-S-P as in Paul, but E-S-T as in Tom. And it originated out of San Francisco, California. And it was very, very expensive. And it was designed for what they said was movers, young future movers and shakers. Politicians, celebrities, these are the people that were undergoing this training. And I took it in Southfield, Michigan.
Huh.
But one of the aspects of the training was to control the temperature of the room and control your appetite, control every bodily function. They told you when you needed to go to the bathroom. You didn't just go as a free will person. But part of this training that I recall was bringing 50 individuals from that auditorium up on a stage with the lights overhead, and then bringing out proctors to stand nose to nose with you in front of your face and stare at you. And then bring some more out to stand on your left side, your right side, and behind you. And they're asking you. They got the lights turned down in the audience, but they're there. You can hear the stirring around. You can hear them cough. You can hear people fidgeting. And they're asking you, what do you feel? What is it that you really feel? Let me just challenge you with this. Go into a bar or restaurant sometime, a busy bar or restaurant. You don't know anybody. You don't know who's in there. You're just walking in there, you and your wife. You're going to sit down and eat. And pick out one person in that crowd and stare at the back of their head and see what kind of reaction you get. Try it. And you should see the customary finger, the scratching of the head, the back of the neck, the tinglies, as I call it. Mm-hmm. You feel that. That's what you feel. That's exactly what I felt when I had those eyes bearing down on me out there in the woods. Exactly what I felt. People are more intuitive. They're more intelligent than they know they are.
Agreed.
When you're faced with death in those situations of impending death, situations like that, your mind is like a computer. It races and does all these fantastical calculations. I never knew that I was that I was able to do this. In college, I sucked at math. I was a genius at philosophy and in history and literature, but math was not it wasn't my cup of tea. And yet, when I encountered a near-death experience during a head-on car collision, I found myself. Not only did I find myself looking at one of the passengers in the vehicle, I found myself going through, in my mind, I felt myself going through all these mathematical computations in a blink of an eye, because this is what's going to save your life. Is this crash impact going to hurt me? Is it the after effect? Is the initial crash going to kill me, or is it going to be the secondary crash? There's always a secondary. We know this from basic physics. With every action, there's a reaction, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you find yourself doing all these computations, and in that blink of the moment, in that blink of the eye, you find some sense of peace, knowing, yeah, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to survive this because the computations, the calculations say that this is going to occur, and I'm going to survive this. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. People are very, very intelligent. They're very, very gifted with a lot of things that we're not made to realize right now, unless you're faced with a situation like that. But it's pretty special. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt. And I feel I like I'm as sane as I ever can be, having gone through everything that I have. The emotional responses, the PTSD, the actual epiphany, the very sudden and abrupt epiphany that you're having, an otherworldly, out of this, supernatural sort of experience. It seems that way. Then again, it's quite natural in the whole broad spectrum of what natural is. This phenomenon is very real, and I think the more people that realize that, will become a saner society. Realizing that we're led not to believe in such things. We're led not to trust our instincts, and that's how our instincts are sort of no longer sharp as they once were, when we depended on them every day for survival.
Well, my
we
friend,
still do, I have to say.
Your instinct was with you when you were born. Your instinct will be with you till the day you die.
I hope so.
It's always there. You got to learn to trust it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Hey, you had a wonderful interview.
Absolutely,
James.
Very pleased.
Oh my gosh, are we gonna say goodbye soon?
Yeah.
2 hours goes by in a heartbeat. Happy to come back. Should you be so willing to have me back? There's so much
absolutely.
audio
It was an honor.
a lot of people in there. If we could play one more audio clip, there's a minute 16-second clip that I've titled "The Deep Growl and Infrasound," and it has the deep growl, which so many experiencers have encountered when they're in close proximity to these creations. I've not heard the deep growl. I've heard other stuff that has manifested itself physically and uncomfortably with me and my body and my eardrums and all that. But the deep growl is something others have described as having, and it is the 1 minute. And there are moments of infrasound. Everybody's wondering if infrasound, we all know it's a real phenomenon, and other, conventional animals, if you will. And I'm not saying the Sasquatch are animals, I believe they're an ancient people. But the people, if people want to experience the deep growl, the 1 minute 16-second clip I sent you has that.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see.
You'll see in the spectrogram that there are intensified yellow portions of the spectrogram on the lower end of the hertz. I believe this is infrasonic expression, and you'll see when you have the intensified yellow part down in the 20 hertz range, you see a corresponding darkening of the white noise space. I'm not expert at this stuff. I've had to teach myself, by hard knocks throughout this process. But when that infrasonic expression is present, the white noise of the din of the woods, the white noise tends to go away. You'll see a darkening of that spectrogram in the background. I have a theory, and again, it's just a theory. I may be wrong, but when infrasonic expressions are employed, it acts as a deafening agent, if you will, or element in the vocal expression that renders us unable to detect what else is going on. Weird little theory, but I've seen it so often. But you can see the infrasonic expressions in that 1 minute 16.
Let me see if I can find it here.
Ninja Dave, hey man, it's been a long time.
Let's go back and see if we can find it here.
That's
not it, is it?
No, this one though is one of my favorites in that it's multiple subjects in a valley. You can hear it's Michigan Valley Voices version 2.0. You can hear multiple subjects throughout the valley in a place where I'm usually capturing close quarter stuff. So intermixed with this long distance multiple subject communicating throughout the valley portion.
James, let me see if I can find. Let me stop this and let me see if I can find the right. That's not it.
Further down. That's not
Let's
it.
see.
No.
We could go the opposite way.
Yeah, keep going.
This is not it here.
It's not it. No. I'll recognize the spectrogram when.
That's your picture there. These are some nice pictures.
Thank you.
Grizz, did you see these pictures?
No, I never seen them.
Yeah. See, most of what people claim to have to be Sasquatch structures on YouTube and in the whole world, I personally believe most are not that are shown. These are clear manipulations. No doubt in my mind, when it's verified by audio, that these were created by our hairy cousins.
So, do you take up a campsite next to these?
No, I don't want to do that.
No.
I do what? I mean, you crazy? That's like going into the cave while the bear is sleeping, ladies and gentlemen.
Although I know some people that would. I don't. I think there are things that need to be respected and kept in their own place. I'm not sure we're meant to interact with these creations, although it's up to them whether we interact or not. This Cherokee structure, or the speech that the Haniawa, Awashiga, Wanawa, and the Honeyhop Hoskins, most of the east and to the Oso, followed by the melodic click and the clucking. Both those captures, 9 minutes apart on the same footage, came from this very structure. Actually, the tail end. If you look, you can't see where I put the structure because there was a tail end on the non-visible side, on the back side perspective.
Now, I haven't seen these pictures ever before, James. This is the first time for me too.
James, they keep asking me, do you record on a static cam?
The cameras, no. As a matter of fact, last time I went camping, I put a game cam facing toward my tent so that I would be so that little guy wouldn't come back and wake me up again. I had the best sleep during my last camping trip. Cameras don't seem to work. They act as more of a deterrent to their visitation.
Right.
And it's just the recorders that they don't seem to mind. They don't seem to mind the recorders. They know they're there. Well, they find them most of the time.
We have one lady, Jennifer. She lived out in the country all her life. Her parents, grandparents owned a lot of property, farmland, backed up with a lot of property. And they had carrot cake and rum cake, and they actually fed these creatures, gifted. And they were sitting on the front porch, and this damn juvenile come run across the yard.
That's cool.
And just like,
that is super cool.
And they couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with it. And they were like, what's going on? And she was like, oh my Lord, honey, I think I fed it rum cake instead of the carrot cake we didn't eat. The damn thing was drunk.
Oh,
and her to tell this story, I mean,
Poor thing.
I fell out. My chair did not have handlebars. I was like, dude, what? If my chair did not have handlebars, I would have been on the floor of my studio. I mean, I was cramping. I was crying. I mean, she felt so bad. This thing did not know what happened. I can't help it. Mr. Easterbrooks, no, I'm being honest. This actually happened. So Russell's asked, no weeds around or structures. No weeds around the structures.
Well, there's vegetation around them. It depends on the structure. The structures I found along the Huron would be that description, devoid of weeds around them. But the structures pick up, but they're not in. They're just in a variety of places. It's oftentimes off trails. The recent igloo type structure that we just saw, that's right off a trail. The people
I get a lot of reports of people actually finding igloo type structures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are brave enough, ladies and gentlemen, to find these things at night and crawl into them. And I'm like, are you ignorant? I mean, what are you going to do? You go in there and there's something else in there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because, some of them say they're birthing structures, they're birthing places. I mean, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, what they are.
Nobody knows, but I know that when I find them, I more often than not get good audio. And I could do an entire documentary off this one evening. It was January 6th, 2019. It starts with snoring, and I started recording this area because I detected activity that suggested a juvenile presence. So I believe.
Oh, hell no! I would have been like, "Do what? I'm out of there." I would have been running.
Yeah. Well,
I would have left you all by yourself.
Yeah. If we're walking through the woods and we got there, they'd be long gone. I mean, we are oil and water with them.
Yolanda, do you think that I'm going to go in there to see if they sitting there? Now, let me tell you something.
I don't know.
Now, I would probably go in there if I had about 10 people with me, and I would probably knock down half of it first, or knock down some of it, or throw sticks at it first, see if anything came out of it.
Be careful.
But I still would have been nervous about doing that. But I used to carry when I go out, I still do. I carry this thing with me. A big old heavy duty tape gun. Yes, to collect hair.
Okay, right on. That's a good idea.
Yes, and it's very sticky. It's not Gorilla Tape by any means.
Okay, yeah.
But this way, I can collect hair samples, like in footprints or in structures, or if there's any tree formations or stick formations, I can put it around this. Because I unfortunately, I wear glasses, and I don't carry like Dick Tracy a magnifying glass with me.
I hear you. Darby Orcutt, Dr. Darby Orcutt. Are you familiar with his study?
Some of it, yes.
North Carolina. Anyway, you can submit those samples to him. There's an online form, and you can find that actually on the community section of my YouTube channel.
Now, this is not a quick or a trick question, James. You're a very intelligent person, but a lot of people, I ask this, and what the hell? Now we got two Vals. Now I'm jealous.
We got two of us.
We got two Grizz. And
we got a storm going on here.
So blame it on the storm.
Crazy.
I love it. So, what color is a polar bear?
It's brown, isn't it?
Are you James?
That's an interesting question, because on the outside you could say white with yellow tinges, but if you look closely at the hair, I believe it's hollow, and it might reflect an iridescence.
That is correct, sir.
So, what color? We all perceive things differently. We hear things differently. This sounds like the right clip, Val. It's just a 1 minute, 16 second.
But you're right. Polar bears are not white. It reflects and absorbs the surroundings.
Yeah.
So that's why it appears to be white or the yellowish tint.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And we know, or people allegedly, we'll say allegedly, that has Bigfoot hair, that has the DNA samples, 98% human, 2% unknown, right? Then when they put underneath the microscope, it's like, what? It reflects the light, and it's like fiber optics, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so, is this how they camouflage itself? Is this how they cloak? I
Very
mean, we can go
possibly.
on to another topic, another show on that. All right, go
Yeah.
ahead, sir. I'm ready. You got the audio playing?
No, I don't. I'm not able to find that other audio.
Okay.
James,
Well,
send it to
that
me
just
real quick, and I'll play it real fast.
how can I do it?
Or
I'm not sure I'm connected with you on.
or send it to Val, and Val can send it to me in Messenger. I got my Facebook pulled up, and I'll
All right.
pop
All
it
right.
up real
Go
quick.
ahead and do that.
This. Where's Messenger? I got to find the right app.
But yeah, so a lot of people, because when I was first told that years ago, I was like, "What?" And I'm
Right.
like, "It's white," and I had to go out and fact check myself, and I was like, "Man," I was like, "Come on." Somebody was trying to trick me,
With a
in
trick
a
question.
conversation. Yeah, I really did. And I was like, I did not know that. And I was like, that's very surprised. And now, that opened up a lot of doors. And, octopuses, how they can cloak themselves and blend in with their backgrounds, chameleons and other animals and insects. And it just goes on. But to see one cloak like Predator, no, that's freaky.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Val
Val, you got
just
it.
sent this away.
Yeah, let
Let
me
me
see
pull
if
up my Facebook back up again.
All right.
All right. I got my Facebook.
All right. Let's see.
Gentlemen, I need a
And,
bio break. Just a 1 minute bio break.
Oh, you're fine,
Yeah,
sir.
go
Let
ahead.
me play your audio here.
Yeah, please do. I'll be right back.
I sent the
right,
link
here.
to you, Chris.
Yep, I've got it. I'm pulling
All
it
right,
up right now. Yep.
All right. Great. You are the master mixer here.
Well, don't say that yet. Just ask me for a login.
Does
Why
he
is it
have
asking me?
Does he have a password?
Hold on. I just closed my Facebook. Let me bring it back up. Let me bring it back up again. It looked like it asked for. It says a login.
Log in or sign up to view.
Log in or sign up to view. Yeah. Let me click on it.
Okay.
So I clicked on it to see what happens
Mm-hmm.
again.
Let me see if I can do this another way too.
Yeah, it's not letting me.
Yeah, you know
Evidently,
what?
it's password protected.
Yeah, he's got it password protected. He may have to send it by messenger to you. I'll bet you he doesn't even know that.
Yeah, when people use Dropbox and Google Docs and everything like that, and certain programs that I use for audio files, video files, I have to hit a certain button to share it.
We can have him there he is right there.
So I cannot open it up. It's asking for like a login or something, sir.
Oh,
That's weird.
James,
Chris,
can you send that directly to Grizzly
It's
Chris?
Grizzly Chris. Grizzly Chris.
Okay.
And let me grab my other device here.
I have Grizzly Hackle.
Yeah, it's Grizzly Chris.
Grizzly.
Now, because of law enforcement, I had to
Right
undo
on.
kind of my
Here you are.
restrictions a little
Hey,
bit.
we have
There
some
we go.
mutual friends here. All right, so be there in a jiffy. Uh, 116.
The wonders and magic of electronics.
Right. Frustrate us to our graves.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Here it is. Okay, coming at you.
Okay, great.
There you go.
There we go.
Profile.
All right, here. right.
Now, James, you say that this is
I've
going to
got
be a
it now.
growl.
Yeah, this has conventional speech. It has the popping, the odd, weird stuff, and the conventional, or not the conventional, but the infrasonic stuff as expressed with an intensified yellow spot on the spectrogram on the bottom end of the spectrogram, and on the spectrograph there's a corresponding amplification. So when it appears on the spectrogram that sound is disappearing, it's actually present and is registering on the spectrograph. So you see that corresponding amplification. So this is my thinking.
Let's get a listen to this and see what we find.
Well, where it went to. You still see what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I can't see what you're all seeing.
There you go. You got it.
Oh, you just heard coon's meat. That's how I hear it. Peekaboo. There was some conventional speech. First of the deep growls. That's really the pithy stuff of that clip. If the audience wants to see it, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's called The Deep Growl in Infrasound, I think.
Okay, cool.
So I've not experienced that close up, but I've spoken to other people that have and describe it just as that grumbly that turns your insides to jelly kind of thing. And I know what that feels like.
Interesting.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks for, like I said, coming on and
I
appreciate your time. I really
appreciate
do.
you having me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you both for your service.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll have you back on and anything we can do to help you out, let us know, sir.
Thank you, brothers. If you can send people, I mean, if folks want to go to MichiganAboriginal.com, you can buy a t-shirt, if you will. I got the cool little design I created myself, playing off the highway signs as everybody else seems to be doing these days. Any way that they can support, they can just visit. You don't have to like and subscribe, although it helps the algorithm. I understand. I don't feed the algorithm, so I don't blame anybody else for not doing that either. So it's interesting stuff, and there's a fringe reality out there that I think people need to be aware of and really sort of appreciate.
Well, brother, this show goes out. This show has a wide berth.
Yes.
So there's a
very
lot of
wide.
people listening to this.
Great. Well, hello, everybody.
Yes.
I thought it was just the three of us.
Just the three.
Oh no. It's we're in 17 countries. I think this one will put in 115 Facebook groups, 15 platforms, and 17 audio groups tomorrow morning. So yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for the exposure. I'm just a kid in the woods looking for the next adventure, and this subject has enough fodder and latitude to satisfy those needs.
Well, you heard, ladies and gentlemen, that's James. Well, thank you, sir. Take care, and once again, I appreciate it.
Peace be with you all. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, what do you think, sir?
It's always a pleasure talking to James, and you've heard tonight some of the philosophical areas that he goes to. But when we communicate offline, we go all over and we chit chat about everything. We have a good time doing it. But that's what life is, isn't it, Grizz?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I really do. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. A lot of information. I love the audio and stuff. That was pretty cool.
It was good. So I'm still waiting for our BFRO guy to come in here. Come on in here.
Yeah, I'll
nice.
be a furrow. What's shaking it, baby? Come on.
We'll see.
And this is where everybody's like, dude, what?
Yeah,
They always
yeah.
love. I don't know why people love when I say that.
Mm.
But, you know, when people crawling in those igloos, they actually do that. And we're like, I mean, like, you're all are crazy.
Well, you know, there was a report of a military man claiming that he goes out and collects afterbirth from those types of structures that we've seen on that picture for DNA testing.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Something to think about.
Yes, what I heard. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I got a show coming up 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. It's not even 33 minutes from now. It's going to be interesting. I can tell you that much. But yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, I enjoyed it, Val.
Brother, it was a good show. Glad to see you again, my friend.
Yes, sir. And we'll catch you on the flip side from coast to coast and around the world, ladies and gentlemen. Godspeed.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good weekend, guys. The rest, what's left of it. We'll see you. Take care. Bye, guys. Love you all.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No, we're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk? Action. No, I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just gonna sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!